Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
We're here with Jack Berry, our good friend and Lifetime Journalist Award winner for the PGA of America. We're here at the Michigan Golf Hall of Fame. We have an induction ceremony today, so that's why I'm wearing a tie, along with just being a good friend of Jack here. So we're dressing up for the occasion. We're doing a little short interview today with Jack and his illustrious career. And Jack, I'd like to start off with taking you back to 1961, when I think you were a kind of a cub reporter, so to speak, for the Detroit Free Press.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you got a little story. You went to the Oakland Hills, 1961.
Correct.
And they had a little tournament there called the U.S. Open.
Correct.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you ran into Ben Hogan in the locker room.
Ooh.
Tell me about that conversation.
Well, Ben, John Walter
Yep.
was at the news and I was at the Free Press. And John knew Ben and introduced me to Ben. And Ben says, "How come there wasn't anything in the Sunday paper about this tournament?" So that was my introduction to Ben Hogan.
And tell me, what was the answer you gave him? Because he didn't realize it, right? You didn't have a paper up, or you didn't work on Sunday, right?
The Free Press, right?
Right. Yeah. He didn't get that, right? You didn't work Sunday.
John tried to protect me and say, "Well, Ben, Jack's got a family, and they don't work on Sunday." And I said, "Okay."
Hey, how was that tournament?
Well,
your first Open.
my first Open.
Yeah.
10 years after he won
Right.
in '51.
You're right.
And Joe Dye, who was the commission, the head man of the United States Golf Association,
Yes.
and we're inside, me and a couple other writers are inside the rope following Hogan up 18. Yeah. And he comes over.
Yeah, did that one arm's length, right?
Yeah.
That's the least of their problems, right?
Well, they had a guy like that too over in Scotland, because when in 1972, my first Open Championship
Yep.
that I was fortunate to go to, it was Jack and Lee Trevino.
Right.
And Tony Jacklin that
Right.
looked like he was going to maybe win it, and we passed by a tent where you could hear the voiceover, and they really spouting off for Tony, but Tony was diving, and it was Jack and Trevino. So we're following, me and several other writers are following Jack up. It was about the 17th hole, and the head guy from the RNA came and assaulted us. We were too close. It wasn't
far away from the rope.
Wasn't bothering Nicholas at all.
Right. Yeah, that's something. Well, that was 50 years ago, 1961, when you made your debut, so to speak, covering a major golf tournament. I'm going to bring you back 50 years to 2021. You were there when Oakland Hills made their debut of their new golf course, of the new South Golf Course, the renovation with Gil Hance. And
Yes.
I know you were there and interviewed Gil Hance and Steve Brady.
Yep.
Tell me your impressions of that now that you've seen you saw the Oakland Hills in the 50s and the 60s, and now you're seeing this new rendition.
I've seen it mainly on television. I've had a lot of offers to go and see it and get around, and I will do that. But they have taken out a lot of trees,
Right.
and you can see that magnificent clubhouse from practically everywhere in the golf course
That's
now.
what they say.
And it's just more open. And will it be more difficult? Who knows? Because now they've got another big factor in them getting back in the picture so far, or
Right.
as it is the getting the plumbing under all the greens.
The sub-air system,
Yeah.
right? That the Masters was the
Right.
first
Remember,
to innovate.
the previous was the PGA or the Open at Oakland Hills, where the bunkers were flooded, and
That was in 1996,
Yeah,
Open,
right, yeah.
with that overnight rain on
Correct.
Wednesday. Right?
Yeah. That's when the great one that they sold out the the tent of goodies. They sold everything. We had hot weather, cold weather,
Right.
rain, and everything
Right.
else. All the umbrellas were sold that week, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, Jack, it's been fun following your career, and I thank you for all the support you've given the younger journalists along the way. And I know you're very instrumental in my career in terms of Michigan golfer. You know, you've seen a lot of changes in how golf is covered, and you've been remarkable how you've done so many interviews, hundreds of interviews with Art, compiling interviews of some of the game's best
Which I
here in
have
Michigan.
enjoyed, yes. Dan
And-
Pohl and Meg Mallon.
Right.
You know,
And
champion
did you ever envision
golfers.
yourself being a YouTube interviewer like that?
No, the days of, when I started, we were pencil and paper
Right.
and those little hand,
Right.
recorders, and it's gone through, now we're into the 28th century, I think it is. It's, for we who are a bit older, it
Right.
is a lot more difficult than nowadays.
That's right.
And it's changed so much.
What do you like about you still on top of the game, both here in Michigan and nationally, but what strikes you about covering the game today in terms of the people who are covering it and writing it? Is it you think it's become more of a just more of a visual medium and there's
Well, it's
less
been-
of emphasis on the words?
Been much so, because newspapers have all been killed
Yeah.
by television. It's hardly as I say, I've read the Grand Rapids paper on the Sunday morning after
Right.
Michigan started a noon football game
Right.
and won easily, and there was nothing in the Grand Rapids Press on Sunday. And that's, news. When I started, we had a lot of guys in Boston. Gosh, they had 3 or 4 papers.
Right.
New York had a load of papers.
Right.
Chicago had more papers. We had the Detroit Times then too. It was the News Times and the Free Press. And so we've lost all that. Television
Right.
has much more Roman time,
Right.
though, like the Golf Channel. I mean, they're on forever. And they have done a good job. I like that when they had Nabilo was on Golf
Frank
Channel. I
Nabilo,
think it's
yep.
on CBS now.
Yeah.
And Brendan, come on, give me his name.
Chambly.
Chambly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Brandon,
him.
right.
And David Duvall has been on, and
Right.
like that. And you get more, a lot more out of the game and how it's being played and everything else. So I like that, and I like that. Just saw the other night the replay of the St. Andrews film, in which our man Tom Doak takes you all the way around the
That's right.
around the old course, and so that I enjoy what they can do
Right.
in that. And now that we're getting the Rocket Mortgage tournament at Detroit Golf Club,
Right.
this made the 2 Detroit papers realize that there's a PGA Tour now.
It's amazing.
And,
Right.
and they had pretty much kissed off the women over in Grand Rapids with a great tournament and terrific champions and
Right.
everything else,
Yeah.
and a couple of Symetra tournaments. And so golf is getting more notice in the papers that still exists
Right.
in Michigan.
I bet you still appreciate the fact, like the Golf Channel, Jack, will have journalists like Tim Rosefort,
Right.
past president like you of the Golf Writers Association of America,
Yep.
and also Jaime Diaz, who's been a fellow
There you
journalism
go.
award.
Yep.
I mean, talk a little bit about that. Isn't it nice to see the visual medium bringing in people who cover the beat on a daily
Very,
basis?
very much so. Well, they're the guys, usually people who start out in television now, they've never worked at a newspaper.
Right.
They don't understand
Right.
all the background that goes into it. Jaime is terrific, and the all during the Ryder Cup week.
Yep.
Awesome. It was wonderful. And I really enjoy what he
Right.
puts into it. And we missed Tim Rosefort, who
Sure.
died a year or so ago. And he was another good, solid newspaper guy in Florida area. And then he went out onto television and he must have had more telephone numbers than the
Right.
Manhattan phone directory.
He had one heck of a, he had one
everybody.
heck of a contact list, is that right? His cell
Yeah,
phone.
yeah.
I mean, you could ask Tim for contact, he'd have it. Hey, Jack, go back, and I bet it hasn't really changed, but what was the essence and what was your approach to covering a tournament? Say you were doing a game story. I think a lot of people don't realize, a golf writer, whether you're covering a Buick Open or the Masters, what the days are like. What's the day like to end up with a good story at the end of that round?
Well, it starts more earlier in the week.
Yeah.
And when they're practicing on, usually they come in on a Tuesday, and
Yeah.
then they play in a pro-am, and so you talk to them and see what who's hot, who's not,
Right.
and you get more out of them that way, and it helps you in the stories that you're going to be writing on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Right.
and Sunday papers. I think of one guy who was a little tough at the Buick and won a couple of times, Julius Boros.
Yeah.
And Julius would get there and he'd sit back, and after you go over his birdies and bogeys and so forth, that enough? That enough? That enough? He wanted to get
Pretty
out of that
antsy, huh?
chair.
Pretty antsy, huh?
Whoa, wait a minute.
That's funny.
We got a few more questions here.
And what about? I know you always gave me some good advice, but didn't you say once you had the lead, everything kind of flowed after that? That was
Yes.
And you had to work through the day to see what lead would work, right?
Well,
And obviously who was leading.
and you hope you got a good inspiration.
Right. Yeah. Well, you had a lot of good ones.
Something that you saw on the course,
Yeah.
the way it happened.
And who inspired you, Jack, as a golf writer or even a journalist? I mean, I know you've always been well read, not only in golf but
Yes.
in politics
Yeah.
and state of the world.
Well, I was lucky that I grew up. My dad worked for the Tigers.
Right.
He was traveling secretary from 1940 on, and so it enriched our family when they
Right.
won the World Series in 1945, beat the Cubs.
Yeah, right.
In 7 games. My hero, Hank Greenberg, who was my
Right.
all-time favorite
Right.
home run, and my dad got the same bonus out of the World Series pot as the players. Always voted him a full share, so that paid off for our house.
Nice.
For their first house, and that was like that. And then H.G. Salsinger was the columnist and the sports editor at the News, and he was my dad's friend. And I like to read. I like to read
Right.
read the papers, and back at that time we had good writers in every city in the country, and now you're missing those words.
Right.
I just feel like I worked during the golden era of newspaper
Right.
writing,
Right.
and it's really unfortunate that it's disappeared
Right.
so much, and the papers have all gone, but a few are left, like Jaime.
Right.
Jaime is wonderful, and he was at the New York Times, and he had the other guys started from Boston, Chicago,
Right.
all over, Milwaukee, even Milwaukee. Yeah, those days are sadly gone, but I did.
Well, you stayed in the game, though.
Yeah.
You've stayed in the game, covered in your bed, which is nice.
Well, I enjoyed like the Ryder Cup. But man, I watched that
I know.
from start to finish.
And as you know, because you and I have been blessed being at a number of them, you really can't beat watching the Ryder Cup on television, particularly on the singles day, right?
Right.
It's nice
Right.
to have the atmosphere,
Right.
but you can't beat wall-to-wall coverage.
Well, you and I were over there for PGA.
That's
and
right.
It's a doggone difficult course for spectators.
It is, right.
To see, and I don't care about Mr. Kohler and his 1,000 bunkers on that golf course. I think that's ridiculous, and that every place is regarded as, I kind of felt sorry for
Dustin Johnson?
Yeah, Dustin Johnson, but he and his caddy never looked at or read the information in
That's right. It was
in the
posted in
locker
everybody's locker
room.
room.
Everybody could
Right.
say that everything is being regarded as a
Right.
bunker. They didn't do that.
Right.
he's gotten a lot smarter over the years.
Yeah.
I kind of thought he was Dumbo for a while,
Right.
but he is maybe his soon-to-be father-in-law,
Right.
Wayne Gretzky.
Right.
I think it's helped him an awful lot.
Well, I'm going to hand off the baton, so to speak, to our colleague and friend Greg Johnson. But I want to make sure this has been a great conversation with Jack Berry on his 90th birthday. I do want the record show, Jack. I was one of the first people to give you the card.
Thank you.
I didn't forget, and I got it on record.
Well, thanks to Terry and to Art McCafferty, who called me up one day and asked me if I'd come out and have lunch, and they asked me if I thought a magazine would have a chance, and it did. And it's, while the magazine part is gone now, it still lives thanks to Art.
Absolutely.
And Terry is always a good columnist.
Oh, that's nice of you to say. And I do say too, I always liked Jack Berry's book back in 1993, Jack Berry's Guide to Michigan Golf. He is a published author. One of the best little synopsis. He called me one time. He wanted to know about a particular golf course in West Michigan, and of course we want to say something nice about every course. And I gave him what I said. I said, you know, there's not a lot there, Jack, but I said, I know you can come up with them. And he came up with the remark, this course has trees, and trees give oxygen. Classic, Jack.
Grow.
All right.
Hi, this is Greg Johnson with Jack Berry, my mentor, really. I used to always say I was a young punk who started at the Grand Rapids Press, and they said, go cover golf. And I go there, and there's a guy named Jack Berry that it really isn't going to have anything to do with me because I'm this young punk who doesn't know what he's doing. And then there's Jack Saylor, another kind of gruff-looking bulldog guy that looked unapproachable. So I'm thinking, man, I'm not getting any help here. So what I did is I just paid attention, and I like to say Jack Berry taught me how to be a reporter, and Jack Saylor taught me how to write crazy leads.
Yeah.
So, I got that too out of it. Anyway, so what do you remember of Greg Johnson coming around?
Who was this guy from the Grand Rapids Press? Well, they did have you did have a predecessor who got out a little bit, and it was nice that an outstate paper, well, the Flint Journal was also would be out and covering golf tournaments. So those days were good. I was always happy to see somebody else out, and the more the merrier. I mean, they figured, hey, this is big time. We got the Free Press, the news. We got the Grand Rapids Press. So.
Well, and these guys did loosen up. Once I got to know them and I met their wives and met their families, it became a much nicer deal. And and they became really good friends and people that I looked up to and went to dinner with and countless places and played a lot of golf with too over the time. So it's really been a joy. Golf became my favorite thing to cover, and I know it was yours. And
Absolutely.
And so that's the thing I want to do with you now is just some favorites. So and just off the top of your head, you can call me and edit it later if you want. But I would say favorite tournament to just cover, just to go to and be part of.
Well, I did 43 Masters tournaments. How's that for a
That's
start?
a lot, yeah. That's way more than I did. I did a few, but not that many.
No, that is the absolute. I tell everyone that is the best run event in any sport. Everything that they do there, and the course is magnificent. Of course, they do the best job at television without commercials, and nobody else does it better than that. I remember one time, Everett Kircher and Chuck Mall, who was his general manager, Everett, the owner of the
Boyne Empire.
kind of the father of Northern Michigan golf,
Yes.
through all the Boyne courses, and they came down to the Masters, and Everett was walking across from inside there across the first fairway, and he got down and he felt the grass down there. Wow, it was like feeling gold. I mean, he was so impressed with that, and so that's the whole that place is impressive. It's much hillier than than you imagine. And that kind of got me towards the end. Those hills going up and down gets a little tougher.
Yeah, well,
as
you
get
taught me a
older.
few places to sit and Terry Moore. I would,
Yes.
because the first few times I was kind of a sweaty mess after going out there and going,
Yeah.
I'm going to go see Amen Corner. It's not as easy as you think.
Right.
You start thinking, if I do this too much faster, I'm going to be saying Amen.
Yeah.
So, but it is incredible.
Yeah.
There's really nothing like it. And I think if you're a golf writer and you haven't gone there, then you've really missed, you know.
Absolutely. Well, then of the other major championships, you see the PGA and the U.S. Open. And those courses are always wonderful courses, and kept up in the best condition possible. And everybody's at the top of the game in those. And so the thing about covering golf was the best beat that there is. Now, my predecessor at the news, John Walter, used to say about golf, you go to the best places and meet the nicest people. And it's hard to beat that because that's exactly what it is. And we are fortunate in Michigan with all the courses, and thanks to Everett sparking the North, all the courses that we have all across the state now. We're only Florida and California, maybe with Texas, have more golf courses than we have, and they're good golf courses. They're terrific golf courses, and so that's been just a great joy, and it was the best beat in the sports department, because you got to go to all these places. I went to I did four Open championships, 2 of them at the Old Course, one that Nicklaus won and Faldo won, and 2 at Muirfield where Lee Trevino and Tom Watson won. So how can you, wow.
Yeah, you can't. We're in the Hall of Fame today, and that's a Hall of Fame list. Yeah,
Yeah.
You're right.
And then Jack's course, Muirfield, what a good golf course that is, and they kind of ran a little bit tougher, even.
It's hard
with not as much kind of softness to it that you can get at Augusta.
Yeah, if not for Dave Hackenberg, I might still be in a bunker there.
Yeah,
It's pretty deep bunkers.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I had to get a hand out.
Yeah.
But, favorite golfer to interview?
Oh boy.
Do you have a favorite interview over time? Or maybe one that was just repeatedly good every time?
Well, the fun guy was Dan Pohl,
Okay.
who's still at it up at Mount Pleasant. And see, because Dave Hill,
Okay.
he's number 1. And nobody.
He
liked
did give you a
Dave
lead,
Hill.
didn't he?
He was wonderful. What a great sport he was. And,
Yeah, I remember that year in Grand Rapids where he playing in the senior tour. He hits it out of bounds on 18, and you guys all looked at me and go, "Hey, you're the local guy. You got to ask that question." So I had to pony up and ask it and get yelled at. So
Yeah.
I didn't think it was all that great that day.
He passed on, and his brother Mike always felt that the Detroit papers never gave him any publicity, that we only
I
wrote
remember
about
that, yeah.
Dave Hill. That was kind of tough.
Yeah.
But Mike Ho was absolutely, he wasn't that much younger. I mean, it was within a year or so of Dave, and Mike was a sensational player, right?
He was. Dave was just funnier.
Right.
And way more open,
Yeah. Yeah. But then Mike connected with Trevino on the senior tour,
Yeah.
and they won, I don't know, at
Oh,
least
they won.
5 times or
They
more.
won a lot of money.
Yeah.
They finally cashed in.
Yeah.
It became the second
Yeah.
tour. They
Yeah.
didn't do that for writers. There was no second tour for us where we could make
Right.
extra money. But,
Right. Yeah.
we've managed to keep eating.
Yes.
So yeah. You have a favorite golf course you've ever played? I know you've played all over the world. So is there a favorite golf course you played? I'm sure it doesn't have any water on it. You don't like water.
Absolutely. You are so correct there. I am the number 1 aquaphobe. And gosh, I think of a local golf course that we play on Tuesdays. Glenn Hurst, it's a year younger than me.
Oh, there you go.
And it's got a couple of those miserable holes with the water on it. But as a favorite course, I don't know what. Got fortunate. I like a couple of the ones over in Ireland. Really
Okay.
enjoyed. We were fortunate, and Terry's been over there a number of times too. And the courses, I've been fortunate to play 22 links, actual links courses, all the way around the island. And I especially like the ones on the west coast and up and across the north. And it's also, I also learned with a couple of Irish friends, I learned about crystal,
Okay.
Waterford crystal, and Balik china. So I've got a cabinet full of those.
Oh, you became a collector.
I
Yes.
supported them.
I'm going to ask you your favorite golfer, and not so much favorite golfer, but the best golfer you think, who's the best golfer you've ever covered, that just based on pure performance, not so much as an interview or as a story, but as just a pure performer that really impressed you.
Well, Nicholas was fairways and greens and putts. I mean, he always talk about Tiger, who I did not. He came along after I left the paper. Tiger was here, there, and everywhere, whereas Jack was in the fairway.
You could usually find him, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So a pure player. It's tough to beat Jack Nicklaus.
Okay. I figured you might be in that camp. Plus,
Yeah.
I remember he signed a book for you, The Only Masters You Missed, of
Yeah.
course. So talk a little bit about that. The one you got sick and you couldn't beat it.
I didn't know it was when he won his 6th jacket. I was president of the Golf Writers at the time, and I had a real busy week going into the tournament, and I wasn't feeling that good, and come on, his name from Pittsburgh, Marino.
Oh, Marino.
Parensenso.
And Marino said, "Oh, it's because of all the yellow is the trees have that dropping the what have said that
Pollen.
The pollen. Yeah,
pollen.
there you go. The
Trees
pollen.
they looked like cars would look like they had a pollen coating
Oh, yeah.
on them.
I remember that.
So I was having trouble kind of breathing, it seemed like, during that. But on Sunday morning, at the Masters, all those majors, the last round doesn't begin, or for the players, the leaders, doesn't start until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon,
Right.
so that they can end on TV time. And I ran around. There's a lake just east of Augusta National, and I kind of ran around that on Sunday morning. I have to say I did run 3 marathons: Detroit, Philadelphia, and New York.
I'm glad we worked that in.
So I
Yeah.
was a semi-runner at the time, and got around there, and then get to the golf course, and then Jack wins awesomely, and so that's huge story. And everybody is in the press building, which was a Quonset hut at the time, until dark. The guys wanted to take down all the numbers off the scoreboard. And can we leave by now? No, everybody had to finish their job. So anyway, I got out of there late at night, and I wasn't feeling that good. Came home, and I went to the doctor 3 times in that week, and the doctors were not very smart and true. And the last one finally took an EKG and said, told my wife, take him to the ER. Oh, thank you. So I got to the ER, and I nearly died that night. I had acute viral myocarditis.
Well, glad there was one smart doctor out of 3 there. That's
right.
good.
And who became a great Irish friend of mine.
Oh, wonderful.
Greg McKendrick. And I got him into the Masters next year.
Oh, there you
for
go.
that. So that was my most memorable experience in golf. Was that event?
All right. Well, thank you, Jack. Thanks. It's always been a pleasure to work with you and to learn from you. And And I greatly appreciate when you send me a note and tell me I did a good job on something, because I know somebody's reading, and
Yes.
I'm usually pretty sure Jack's reading it. As long as Jack's reading, I'm okay with it. If he thinks it's good, then I figure I did a pretty good job. But thanks so much for being my mentor and my friend.
Well,
And,
I turn on that computer and it's Greggy. It's all the way down.
I stay
there.
busy, don't I?
You
Yeah.
stay busy.
Well, I learned if you don't hustle, you don't keep up with the Jacks of the world. So I
Greg
had to
and Terry and Art, the 3 closest friends that I have in golf.
Oh.
I've been very privileged.